Right, good morning, boys. Welcome sa ating math session. First math session. No? It's expected that at this point, you have already studied the session zero materials, PowerPoint, no? In particular, dapat nabasa nyo na yung mga contents niya, naaral nyo na. Yeah? For this session, we will review the definition of functions, of course, as well as relations. We will differentiate functions from other equations that we have been encountering for the last 3 years. Use the proper notations for functions, work on some drills, and look at some items from our FA. Yeah. What is this? All right, morning, boys. Welcome to the first session of our first module in math. Session na to, pag-aaralan natin ang functional notations. Okay? At this point, I expect that you should have already engaged the session zero materials, lalo yung PowerPoint. Okay? Importanteng hindi kayo papasok sa klase ko na ready. Okay? For this session, we will review the definition of functions as well as relations, of course, correspondences, no? Those really important terms. we will differentiate functions from equations, no? Or mere equations, if you know how it was phrased, or mere relations, how it was phrased in the PowerPoint. Use functional notations and work on some drills. Some of these drills are from your textbook. Okay, so simulan na natin. Right. Napag-aralan natin dapat doon sa material, no? That when we talk about functions, we first have to understand what a relation is. No? And a relation is any way of relating one element of a certain set to another element of another. No? In particular, your two sets we're talking about, should be non-empty. Remember, in grade 7, 3 years ago, pinag-usapan na natin yung sets. No? So, for a relation to be possible, it has to be a way of relating elements, no, between two different non-empty sets. Okay? And it can be represented in various ways. Nakita natin sa PowerPoint, minsan naka-mapping diagram yan, minsan table of values, minsan graph, minsan equation. No? And we also saw that there are various types of mainly, no, types of correspondences. Ito sila. One-to-one correspondence, many-to-one, one-to-many, and many-to-many. Again, nakita nyo yan dapat doon sa material. Ano? And in particular, all of these 4 possible correspondences, no? Lahat yan ay paraan ng pagre-relate ng element or elements in one set to an element or elements in another. Okay? So, one-to-one, many-to-one, one-to-many, or many-to-many. All of those correspondences are possible variations of relations. Okay? Now, nabanggit ko kanina, no? One of the different ways of depicting a relation is through equations. We saw that also in the material posted, you know? For example, the value of x is 2 more than the value of y. The square of y is equal to the value of x. Now, these two statements, remember, as early as grade 7, tinuturuan na kayo na mag-translate, no, from words to their mathematical equivalents. And if we did that, we'll have something like this. No? For the first one, the value of x. So, x is 2 more than the value of y. 2 more than the value of y is 2 plus y. Tama, no? And then for the second one, the square of y, or y squared, is equal to the value of x. No? So, ito mga equations. It's still relating the value of a certain element in a certain set, and if you to another, no, and if you put it in the context of functions, we are of course talking about possible values of x and values of y that correspond to those values of x, no? Or yung inyong domain and range. Tama, naalala yan? Terms na yan, domain and range. Now, again, ano, alam natin na meron tayong 4 na correspondences. One-to-one, one-to-many, many-to-one, many-to-many. However, out of those 4, dalawa lang doon, in particular, si one-to-one and many-to-one correspondence. Only those 2 pertain to functions. No? Bakit? Bakit yan lang yung nagpa-pertain to functions? Because again, no, it's a way of, a function, technically speaking, is a special kind of relation. No? In other words, when we talk about functions, a function, any function, is a relation. Okay? However, if you have a random relation, that may not necessarily be a function. No? Ulit, na? Pag sinabi natin na ang isang, let's say, equation is already known to be a function, we also know, by extension, that that equation is a relation as well. No? However, the reverse is not true. If we just know that an equation sort of represents an equation, it does not necessarily mean that that relation is a function. Okay? It has to satisfy certain conditions. In particular, dapat ang correspondence lang ng iyong equation is either one of these 2. It's either one-to-one or many-to-one. Kapag yan one-to-many or many-to-many, it's not a function. It's a mere relation. Now, na-define naman yung function, ano? Again, dun sa PowerPoint. But the idea is, much like a keyboard perhaps. Yeah? When you press your keyboard, assuming that your keyboard is working properly, pag nagpindot ka na kahit anong key sa iyong keyboard, no, button sa iyong keyboard, you're expected to only get a certain specific response, specific output, no, from pressing that. And that depends, of course, on where you are. If you're on, let's say, an internet browser, no, perhaps pressing Control E functions differently from pressing Control E in Microsoft Word, no. But the idea is, barring that, if you're on a certain platform, on a certain using a certain app, no, when you press something on your keyboard, it's expected that you only get one type of response. Much like ito, sabi ko sa example dito, no, when you press a J but something else appears, there's something wrong with your keyboard therefore. Okay? Hindi siya intended. Now, dahil alam natin from the material that we studied ahead of this session that a function is a special kind of relation. So, in terms of how they appear in written form, how then can we distinguish, a function from mere relations that we encountered from grade 7, from grade 8, grade 9, no? And that's where the idea of functional notation comes in. Yeah? And this is really important. Okay? Let's stress this. Now again, for every input, if given that your equation is a function, there must only be one type of output. Isa lang dapat. Hindi pwedeng hindi. No? One type lang of output. And you can think, therefore, of a function much like a machine. You put something in, then something comes out. And, sir, what is that something that comes out? Well, depende sa kung ano ginagawa ng machine mo. No? You can first think about it like in non-mathematical terms. Let's say there is some sort of a conveyor belt machine, no? Much like at a pizza place, you put in a dough, top it with toppings and marinara and cheese and all that, and then what comes out is pizza, no? Or yung mga nakikita nyo sa mga comedic cartoons like Looney Tunes, no, they put something in the machine and then something processed comes out, no? And different machines, of course, function differently in the same way that different functions behave differently, no? Do different things to certain inputs. Okay? So may nangyayaring something. That's the point of the machine analogy. Okay? Now suppose that our machine here, our function machine, always doubles the input value. Dinodoble niya, no? So, ano ibig sabihin nun, sir? Let's say that you have an input here. Saksakan natin to halimbawa ng 7. Remember, our function behaves. Sabi dito sa supposition natin, it doubles the input value. So, pagpasok ng 7, dapat ang labas dyan, syempre, ay 14. No? Dinodoble niya eh. Pag pinasok mo dito, halimbawa, minus 3 or negative 3, ang labas niya dapat ay negative 6. So you can imagine it does that. Now, of course, it's not just numbers that you can input in your machine, no? Granting, wala namang sinabi na restriction eh. Ano ba pwede ko saksak dito? Kasi pwede mo saksakan yan ng letter din eh. Let's say, saksak ko dyan ay M. Remember, the machine always doubles the output. So pag sinaksak mo dyan ay M, ang lalabas dyan dapat 2M. Tama, di ba? Pwede rin. No? Hindi laging numbers ang ating ini-input. Pwede mong i-input dyan, binomial, say, B minus 5. Ang isaksak mo sa loob as input. Ano magiging output? Twice that. So, it's supposed to be 2B minus 10. O, diba? That's the idea. So, if we therefore sort of give a name, or give an equation rather, for our function, we know it doubles the input. We can write it perhaps as this, no? The output y, the tawag dito, the conventional output in a two variable equation. Okay? The output y is double the input x. In other words, in written form, it's y equals to x. Now, kapag sinulat natin na y equals 2x, it resembles an equation that we've been seeing since grade 8. No nag two variables kayo, no? First degree equations in two variables. But again, the concern is how do we distinguish functions from these quote-unquote regular equations or mere relations, no? Dito tayo papasok ng ating mga notations. Ito, no? One way of writing y equals 2x is as this notation. Now, hindi ko muna babasahin ito. Nasa next slide ko yan. No? This notation. Sir, parang parehong-pareho naman except for instead of y, ito nakita ko y. Instead of that, I see a replacement. May f, may parenthesis, tapos may x. Okay? Anong basa ba dyan, sir? F times x? Kasi yung turo mo sa amin nun eh. Pag may parenthesis, di ba? Multiplication, no? But for functions, that's not the case. Okay? For this type of notation. When we see this notation, no? We don't read it as f times x. Okay? This emphasizes, this notation, this emphasizes now that the value of the output, which originally was represented by y, depends on, no, nakadepende siya sa input na x. Again, sabi natin, no, conventionally, sa two variable equations involving the variables x and y, and still in the context of the coordinate plane, by convention, x is your input variable and y is your output variable. When you write it like this, in this notation, you may parenthesis f, may parenthesis may x, no? It further emphasizes that whatever comes out of your function or your machine depends on what you put in. No? Depends on your input. Okay? Kaya nga din, kung ipapasok mo si science, x is your independent variable while y is your dependent variable. Okay? Now, anong basa nga dun, sir? Dito, pag pinalitan natin ito, look, oh, it used to be y, our dependent variable. But now, it's this. Again, from y, ganyan na itsura niya. But is that, sir, read as f times x? No, it's not. Okay? In the context of functions, we're in grade 10 now. In the context of functions, there are proper ways of reading such a notation. Two of those are these. Mas madalas, ginagamit ko to. F of x. Yeah? F of x. Pwede rin f at x. Basically, itong nauunang letter na to, si f. It doesn't have to be f all the time. Ha? Itong f na ito, could be any letter actually. Could be a lowercase letter, could be an uppercase letter. But whatever that is, itong letter na to, that's the name of your function. Okay? Ang function natin, pinapangalanan din natin. Pwedeng uppercase. Function A. Pwedeng small letters. No? Function M. Pwedeng ganyan. In this case, it's function f. So the function f in written form, in equation form, is f of x. No? F of x is equal to 2x. Okay? So again, it gives you an idea what happens in your function just by looking at your equation. Okay? Okay kayo nga. Pause muna yung video. Try nyo basahin sa isip ninyo. Pero aloud. Read aloud. But think aloud. Yeah. Basahin ninyo ito. Okay, pause muna. Try basahin and then play pag may sagot na kayo. Okay. You pressed play already. So, number 1, dapat ang basa nyo dito ay f of x is equal to x plus 1. Pwede rin na f at x is equal to x plus 1. Okay? Ako, mas sanay akong ginagamit yung first, yung of f of x. Next, g of x is equal to x squared plus 5. Yeah. Then k of x is equal to 3x minus 7. Tatlo pa. Again, pause mo na ulit. Tapos basa. Parang may pumangit dito. Dapat ito ay ganyan. Yan. Okay, pause muna. And then read. Right. You probably hit play already. Ang basa dito sa una, that's m of a is equal to 1/2 a squared minus 2a plus 1. Then you have p of c is equal to the square root of 13. May typo nga yung kanina, the square root of 13. And then you have k of x is equal to negative 5. Okay? Yan yung pagbasa sa ating functional notation. Di ba? Dali lang naman. Nasa pagbasa pa lang tayo. No? Super simple. Now, look at this next question here. Suppose that the function r, okay, so we have a function with the name of r, is defined by the equation r of x is equal to 1 minus x squared. What is, again, this is not r times 4. We read it as what is r of 4 or r at 4. Okay? Now, this can be interpreted in multiple ways. As long as it's correct, it should lead you to what it really means, yung r of 4. Pwede mo interpret yan as what? We want to find out ano ang value ng function. In other words, ano yung output kapag ang input mo ay 4, di ba? Yun, no? We want to know what the output is if we input 4. Gusto rin natin malaman kung ano mangyayari sa function. Sa y, sa function value rather, sa y, kung ang x ay 4. No? But the idea is the same. There's just different ways of sort of phrasing or interpreting the expression. You know? Okay, so that's what r of 4 means. At madali-madali lang yan, no? Tulad dito halimbawa, we have two functions here, m and v, where m of x is equal to 5x plus 3 and v of x is x cubed. Say natin, what is m of a? Sige nga, m of a. Ano ba ginagawa dito, sir? We go back to our previous example here. What is r of 4? Remember, see, 4 in this case is what we input in our function machine. And your function machine is r. Okay? That's your function. So in other words, kapag nag-input ka ng 4, ano dapat ang nangyayari dito? Ano dapat ang gagawin ko to determine r of 4? And to those who did some reading, no? The idea is we plug in, no, our input value for our input variable x, and then we simplify the resulting expression. So we're looking for, given r of x is equal to 1 minus x squared, we are looking for r of 4. So ang gagawin ko dyan, look, no? Kanina, r of x yan. Kasi x is the input. It's what I'm inputting in my function machine. But now, instead of x, it's a specific number, real number 4. In other words, tingnan mabuti to, no? Dito sa unang equation natin, x ang input. Note the right side of the equation. Nandun, kita ko rin talaga si x, yung aking placeholder. No? It's just that it's accompanied by other symbols and operations. It's 1 minus x squared. But when x is 4, notice that what I do is every x I see here in this expression, I will replace by my input value. It's 1 minus, and I won't just write 4, although in this particular instance I can. It would be safer if you enclose it in grouping symbols. There you go. At ito, grade 7 pa lang, kayang-kaya na natin yan. No? R of 4 is equal to what? 1 minus 16. So we have R of 4 to be minus 15. Diba? So ito yung value na hinanap natin. Tinanong, what is R of 4? R of 4 is negative 15. Diba? Super, super simple. Okay naman. Try. Nangyari sa aking clicker. There you go. So, given these two functions, sige nga, what is m of a? I-reveal ko na muna kaya mga questions. There you go. Yan. Then pause the video. Meron ba ako number 6? Ayun, may number 6 pa. Pause the video and then hit play when you have 6 answers. Okay? Go. Right, at this point, dapat may sagot na kayo once you've hit play. What is m of a? Asan ang m muna? Hanapin mo nasa yung function m. Ito si m. Ang tanong, ano ini-input natin? Is it a number? Well, not necessarily. It's letters. Much like a placeholder din ang ipapasok mo sa placeholder mo ng x. That's fine. Now, m of a, ibig sabihin, given m of x, m of a, I look at my right side here. All x's that I see, I replace by a. Pero again, it's safer if you enclose them in grouping symbols first. You'll see why in a while. Ano? So what I'll do is 5 times, instead of x, it's gonna be a plus 3. And then you simplify kung kaya. No? So that will be 5a plus 3. That's it. No? That's the most that you can do. What is m of 3? Number 2. Ganun din, ano? So m of 2, So 5, ano nga, 5a plus 3. Sulat ko na lang ganito ha. 5a plus 3. Si m of 3 is 5x plus 3. Pero dapat, dito na ako maglagay ng equal sign. Ano? Instead of an x, that's gonna be a 3. No? Plus 3. 5 times 3, 15. Plus 3 is, of course, 18. Okay? What is v of 2? Anong sagot mo sa v of 2? V of 2, ang v mo ay x cubed. So that's gonna be 2 cubed. Which is supposed to be 8. Tama? What is v of negative 1? So v of negative 1 is equal to negative 1 cubed. Which is equal to, that's negative 1 times negative 1 times negative 1. That's a negative 1. Okay? Ito weird, sir. What is m of heart? Remember, it's an input. That's no problem if it's a symbol, a number, a placeholder, an expression in itself. Okay lang. So m of heart, that will mean that I will replace all x's that I see with hearts. That's 5 heart plus 3. Yeah? Dali lang, di ba? And finally, what is v of PQ? PQ meaning P times Q, the product of P and Q. So that's going to be equal to what? I replace all x's in V of x with PQ. So that's going to be PQ cubed. Which, if you remember by your laws of exponents, will be P, oops, sorry, supposed to be a P. P cubed Q cubed. Diba? Napakadali. Parang grade 7 lesson. Diba? Evaluating, ang tawag dun? Yes, evaluating expressions. That's the idea. If you might remember our grading system last year, di ba ito yun? Technically, function yan if you think about it. No? Your final mark or your numerical, letter mark rather, your letter mark depends on your numerical mark for a certain term. Okay? And it can be anything, your numerical mark cannot correspond to multiple letter marks. Let's say, for a certain term, ito, ang nakuha mo ay 88. So, what is h of 88? 88 ang numerical mark mo. Hindi pwede na kung 88 ang numerical mark mo, dalawang letter mark mo. Hindi. Kaya nga, function ito eh. For every kind of input, where the input is the numerical grade, you only have one possible letter mark output. So, what is h of 88 then? Look at this, no? H of 88. Asan ba rin yung 88? Ay, ito. Pasok dito, sir. So, kung 88 ang grade mo nun, di ba? Ang grade mo dapat ay B. O, di ba? It can't be anything else. It can't be B or A. No, it's just B. 74.5. Uy, sabit. Pero bagsak. Dito ka. 74.5. Saka babagsak dyan. Well, technically it's a D. Pero hindi pinakita dito. No? 60 to 74 ito eh. Yeah. Unless you're rounding off. So that's supposed to be a D. D pa rin yan. Okay, with this range right here. And 93, then you get an A. Okay? Hindi lang malinaw dito. Pero actually, there's a bit of error here. Dapat, etong range natin should be something else. Maybe less than 75, yung D. Para malinaw na D talaga yung 74.5. Good. Hey. What's happening to my PowerPoint? There you go. Yan. Sabi ko kanina, the letter mark depends on your numerical mark. Ibang presentation naman. What if instead of an equation, you're given, or a table, like a previous slide, you're given a graph. Okay? This is the graph of the function k. So again, hanapin ang function value for 1, 2, 3, 4 and then look for the input in 5. Pause muna ang video, try answering by yourself. Hit play when you have 5 answers. Right. At this point, kung pinlay mo na, k of 0. Sir, paano gawin ito? Medyo na-stunt ako, sir. K of 0, remember, this is an input. And on your Cartesian plane, remember, by convention, your inputs can be found here along the horizontal axis or your x-axis. Your outputs, the y values, can be found along your vertical axis. So, kapag tinatanong sa'yo, K of 0, input mo 0. Asan sa horizontal ang 0? Ito, dito. O tapos, sir, anong gagawin ko dyan? Tinatanong, what is K of 0? In other words, what is the function value when the input is 0? Hahanapin mo kung saang part ng graph, saang point, rather, on the graph, mayroong x coordinate na 0. In other words, I will look for, yan. And this is the point in the graph. Look, point on the graph, rather, where the x coordinate is 0. In other words, the input value is 0. And what is the function value or the output value or the y value, y coordinate of this particular point? Because we know by location, the x coordinate of that point is 0. Ang tanong na lang, ano ito? At pag nalaman mo yan, yun yung sagot doon. That's K of 0. Diba? And the answer is, if you examine this graph, that's the 3. Diba? 3. That's the point 0, 3 eh. In other words, K of 0 must be 3. Diba? Ang dali lang. Ano yung K of negative 3? Again, hanapin mo si negative 3 dito. Oops, ito si negative 3. Asan yung point on the graph na mayroong negative 3 na x-coordinate? Eh, dito yun mismo. Ayan. Well, what is the y-coordinate of this point? Tingin ka dito. Eh, di yun. 0. That's supposed to be a 0. Yeah. What's K of 6? Hanapin si 6 along the horizontal. Oops, nandito. Uy, nagkataon. Pareho din. 0 din. Diba? What is K of 3? Hanapin si 3 along the horizontal. Somewhere here. Hanapin. Nasaan sa graph ang tatang? O, yun. 3. Anong point ito? Anong coordinates niyan? Di ba yung 3, 3? Oh, so, ang kanyang y coordinate ay 3 din. There you go. O, ito, kakaiba. K of x daw. Oops, sorry. K of x. Sorry, let me put that back. K of x is equal to 4. Alam mo yung output. Ang hindi natin alam yung input. So, pabaliktad ngayon. Kung ang output mo ay 4, hahanapin ko along the vertical kung nasan ang point on the graph where the output value or the y coordinate is 4. Nasan yun? Along the vertical. Ito yung vertical ko eh. Nasan along the vertical? Ayun. Ito ang point na to. Ang mayroong y coordinate na 4. And what is the x coordinate of this point right here? Trace mo pababa. Pababa, pababa, pababa. Right there. My answer is negative 1. Oops. Negative 1. Okay? Ayos, diba? Napakadali. Eto, sige nga. K of x equal to 5. What is x? Sir, may problema. Wala namang point on my graph with a y coordinate of 5. Correct. That is correct. Ibig sabihin, in fact, the function can never have an output value of 5. Hindi pwede. Look at your function. Hindi ka lalampas actually sa sa 4, no? In terms of the range. In fact, if we talk about the range, if you want to be specific about it, what is the range of the function k? Diba? Nalala nyo yung grade 9, sinusulat nyo, that's gonna be all y such that y blah 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 blah, diba? But now, remember, we're using functional notation. So what is my range? No, my range is the set of all k of x instead of your y, remember, such that k of x is what? First and foremost, we know we are we are looking for values along the real number coordinate plane. So we know we're referring to real numbers. So k of x is an element of the real numbers, pero may limitation ng k. Kumbaga, ang ceiling value niya, ito 4. Nothing is seen beyond that. Wala na rito. So, meron kang limitation. K of x is what? Under 4 lang meron ako. So, that's less than or equal to 4. That is the range of the function k. Okay? We'll have more practice with that as we move along. Sorry kung nawala bigla. There you go. Yan yung ating range ng function. Okay? But anyway, you can pause the video if you want to take notes. Mapping diagram naman. Given S, the function S, no? Find the following. Okay? Again, pause the video first, then hit play when you're done. Right, pinlay mo na dapat. Let's see. S of 2. Asa ng 2 sa input? Ito. What is the function output? Ito. 5. S of negative 1. Ano si negative 1? Ito. Ano output ko? Sa nakaturo? Negative 1 din. Diba? O, S of x is equal to 7. O, sabi daw, output na. Remember, S of x is the output value. Ang output value daw ay 7. Di pa baliktad. Anong input tinatanong? Ito output 7, no? Anong input ang nag-yield ng output na 7? Pabalik ka ngayon. 3. X is equal to 3. Diba? Very, very simple. Kaya, dali. Some more items. I think these are from the textbook. No? Find g of negative 3, given that g of x is this, and h on the other hand. Again, pause muna, hit play when you have answers. Okay, should have hit play already. Tignan natin ito. Ang ating function, g of x, sulat ko muna ganyan, is equal to x plus x squared. But we're looking for g of negative 3. So, g of negative 3 is equal to every x I see here, I replace by a negative 3. But just to be safe, in grouping symbols. Yeah? Simplify ka ngayon. That's a minus 3 plus 9. That's minus 3 plus 9, that's equal to 6. So, g of negative 3 is 6. Diba? Super, super simple. How about this? H of x is equal to 4x minus 3. Find, ano to, sir? 2h of x. Hindi ba yung typo? No. When you see a number in front of this output variable, remember, h of x is just like y. So, 2h of x is like 2y. 2 times y. In other words, this is 2 times h of x. So, kung meron kang h of x to be equal to 4x minus 3, kapag ako nagmultiply ng 2, nagmultiply ako ng 2 kay h of x, di ba? Base dito. By MPE, don't you also have to multiply the other side? Yeah? By 2? Mag-2 ka din dyan. Times, 4x minus 3. Diba? So, 2h of x is equal to, mag-ano ka lang dyan, DPMA. That's gonna be an 8x minus 6. Diba? Super simple. Napakadali. Yan pa yata ako isa dito. Before the exit ticket. Ayan. Ay, hindi pa. Konti pa lang. Second to the last, I think. Again, hit the pause muna. Answer, and then hit play when you're done. Okay, meron na dapat kayong sagot. I have h of x be equal to 4x minus 3. I'm looking for h of x squared. So, h of x squared. Actually, yung base lang nito. Lahat ng x na makita mo dyan, gawin mo lang x squared. Oops, sorry. It's a minus 3. And then you simplify if you can. That's 4x squared minus 3. Super easy pala sir ng lesson natin. How about this? This is the last one. Given g of x to be x cubed minus x squared plus x minus 1, find g of, ito na, pinahirapan tayong konti. G of x plus 2. Binomial lang input. Again, pause muna. Try it on your scratch paper. Hit play when you have an answer. Right. Okay, nag-play ka na dapat. So, we're looking for g of x plus 2. Ano ibig sabihin yan? If this is our function g, then g of x plus 2, all x's I see on the right side, papalitan ko lang ng x plus 2. Pero again, in grouping symbols, just to be safe. So, ito x, palitan ko yan. X plus 2. Cube. Challenging. X, palitan mo ng x plus 2. X plus 2 squared plus x plus 2 minus 1. Na hindi ko alam kung grade 8 ba, nabigyan ba kayo ng ano dito? Special product, cube of a binomial. Parang hindi yata. In any case, if you, ano ba ang familiar kayo? Square of a binomial, I think that's what you're familiar with. X plus 2 cubed, remember, is x plus 2 squared times x plus 2. So maybe you can do x plus 2 squared first. Ayan, mas kaya nyo yata i-mental math yan, ano? That's gonna be your x squared plus 4x plus 4. Yeah? And then you still have to multiply that by x plus 2. O yan, kung gusto nyo, mag-ano na kayo, DPMA na kayo. Ito muna, tsaka ito. That's x cubed. Tapos ito, tsaka ito. You have your 2x squared. 2x squared. And then ito naman, 4x times x. That's your 4x squared. Diba? And then 4x and 2, you have your 6x. 8x, 8x. And then you have your 4 times x. You have your 4x here. And then your 4 times 2, you have your 8. Simplify mo na lang. Finally, you have x cubed plus 6x squared plus 12x plus 8. O, diba? Sa higher math, may shortcut yan eh. Pero, hindi na natin covered yun. Minus the quantity, yan, kanina alam na natin yan, x squared plus 4x plus 4. Yeah. Plus x plus 2 minus 1. Whew! Let's try to remove grouping symbols. We have x cubed plus 6x squared plus 12x plus 8 minus x squared minus 4x minus 4 plus x plus 2 minus 1. Okay? Now we combine like terms. Si x cubed, mukhang single, walang kapareha. X cubed lang yan. 6x squared, hanap tayo. 6x squared, may negative x squared dyan. 5x squared na lang. Meron pa ba? Wala na. Plus 5x squared ako dyan. 12x. Sino kapareha 12x? Ayun. May minus 4x ako doon. So it's down to 8x. And then you have a plus x. That's a 9x. 9x. And then you have a plus 8. Minus 4. That's a 4. Plus 2. That's a 6. Minus 1. That's a 5. Plus 5. Therefore, g of x plus 2 is equal to x squared plus 5x, x cubed plus 5x squared plus 9x plus 5. Diba? Simple math lang naman yan. Grade 8 yata na yung natutunan yan. That's grade 7 pala sa akin. But the laws of exponents, grade 8. Okay? Should have gotten that answer. Now, for your exit ticket, yan. Pwede yata picturean nito. You can take a screenshot or write it down. Given f of x equals 3x plus 1, determine the following. F of negative 3, f of 2a, 2f of 1, f of m plus 1, f of 1/3 squared, the quantity f of 1/3 squared, and determining x given that f of x equal to 10. Okay? By this time, naka-upload na rin sa Google Classroom yung classwork where you will submit the photo output. And I expect that to be submitted before 4 p.m. today. Okay? Now, if you have any questions, you can always send me an email. Kung di naintindihan, pwede mo panoorin ulit ang video. That's the beauty of recorded lectures. Okay? I won't see you yet this week, but I will see you next week. Okay?